What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Alex Pereira roasts Dricus du Plessis in video. After Dricus du Plessis' recent win over Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira revealed his desire to drop back down to middleweight for a fight with DDP. Leading up to Pereira's fight with Khalil Roundtree this weekend at UFC 307, Poatan roasted du Plessis during a video where he was asked to rate fighters on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being the easiest fight and 10 being the most difficult fight. After rating Tom Aspinall as a 9, Magomed Ankalaev as a 5, and John Jones as a 9, Pereira then rated Dricus du Plessis as a 4. Along with his rating of DDP, Pereira also rated Khalil Roundtree and Alexander Rakic both as 7s, and Robert Whittaker as a 6. Given that Pereira has talked about dropping back down to middleweight in pursuit of the 185-pound title, he may have been trying to bait the champion into a social media exchange to generate conversation around a potential bout. Of course, first, du Plessis will have to defend his title against Sean Strickland in a highly anticipated rematch at the end of this year, or the beginning of next year. In addition, if Pereira successfully defends his title this weekend, he could wind up on a collision course with Magomed Ankalaev in the event he defeats Alexander Rakic at UFC 308. Do you think a fight between Pereira and du Plessis will ever come to fruition? And if so, how do you see the fight playing out? Israel Adesanya wants a rematch with Sean Strickland. Israel Adesanya recently revealed that he's targeting a return to action at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. With a number of up-and-coming contenders at 185 like Nasruddin Imavov and Caio Borralho, there's no shortage of potential opponents for the last stylebender to compete against. In addition, as Adesanya revealed during a recent appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience, he also has his sights set on a rematch with Sean Strickland.
Strickland won definitely because that fight was not me. And again, I don't make excuses. It was just another Dave Chappelle quote. You have to realize when it's your time. I can't remember, he's such a philosopher with it. He said something about like when it's your time, you have to know when it, and be humble enough to know when it's someone else's. You know what I mean? That was just his week. That was just his and everything. So I just, his time, let him have it. But I definitely know what I can do. And I took his best shots, and I just know like, yeah, I can take this guy. I know what I can do. Not similar to the Pereira one where I was winning, but this one I definitely know what I can do with this guy.
As Adesanya explained recently during a separate appearance on the Adam Carolla show, he doesn't care if his next fight is for the title. He simply wants to return to action and get back in the win column. Given that a fight between Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland has not been scheduled yet, Adesanya may have to compete against a top contender if he wants to remain active rather than waiting for a fight with either Sean Strickland or DDP. Magomed Ankalaev is next for light heavyweight title shot. When the UFC announced that Alex Pereira would be defending his belt against Khalil Roundtree at UFC 307, many members of the MMA world were left wondering why Magomed Ankalaev didn't get the next crack at the belt and instead wound up being booked to fight Alexander Rakic at UFC 308. According to Ankalaev's manager Ali Abdelaziz, if he gets the job done against Rakic later this month, he's next in line for a crack at the belt. While speaking with MMA Fighting, Abdelaziz opened up on the situation, explaining, "I've been told Ankalaev do what he has to do, Alex Pereira do what he has to do, and both of them will fight next. I don't think Alex is ducking him. I think it's the UFC's decision. I don't think Alex is the guy ducking people. I have respect for him and his team. He just became a big star, and the UFC knows, the fans know, Magomed Ankalaev is the hardest and toughest fight for Alex Pereira. Let's be real, it's okay, because if you're the best in the world, if you want us to beat Rakic, we'll beat Rakic." Now, Pereira has to do his job and beat Khalil Roundtree. It's not an easy task. I don't think it's an easy fight. Magomed Ankalaev has to beat Rakic, and these two guys will fight, and people will get the two best light heavyweights in the world right now. Over the summer, Ankalaev notably said that Pereira's striking is overrated, and he would be happy to stand and trade with Poatan when they share the octagon. If a fight between the two winds up coming to fruition, it'll be interesting to see how things play out. Ilia Topuria and Usman Nurmagomedov go back and forth. Ahead of his upcoming fight with Max Holloway at UFC 308, Ilia Topuria appears to be setting up a potential fight with Islam Makhachev in the event that the lightweight champion successfully defends his title against Arman Tsarukyan. During a recent Spanish-speaking Instagram Live, Topuria was asked whether he would be willing to move up to 155 for a fight with Islam Makhachev. In response, he stated, "The truth is that, of course I do. He's a great fighter. Sometimes he talks too much, sometimes not. But we can always resolve it in the octagon, not in the streets because I have to pay for his medical bills." Bellator lightweight champion Usman Nurmagomedov then fired back with a post on his Instagram story, writing, "When did you ever fight on the streets, European boy?" Topuria then responded, taking aim at the Bellator champion, referencing his failed drug test last year. "It's been a long time, to be honest. How are you doing with drugs? Are you still on steroids?" While Topuria and Nurmagomedov have been going back and forth, so far, Makhachev has yet to respond to the call-out, or El Matador's comments about his teammate. Before a Makhachev-Topuria fight is a possibility, of course, Topuria will have to get through Max Holloway later this year. And Makhachev will have to get through a rematch against Arman Tsarukyan, which is expected to take place at the end of this year or the beginning of next year before Ramadan. Cody Garbrandt breaks silence on his UFC contract. Cody Garbrandt's upcoming fight with Miles Johns next month will be the last bout on a former champion's current UFC contract. While Garbrandt is now coming up on a decade in the UFC in early January, his next fight with the promotion could be his last. During a recent appearance on the Jackson podcast, Garbrandt spoke with Rampage Jackson about his contract situation heading into his upcoming fight. As he explained, he'd love to re-sign with the UFC. However, at the end of the day, money talks.
I'm still going through some, things with the UFC. This is my last fight in the contract, so gotta, get together with them and see what we can come up with.
You gonna resign?
I love to, man. I love the UFC. I think especially where the sport's going. I love mixed martial arts. Obviously, the UFC is the premier league to fight in there, but money talks.
When asked what he wants to do after he retires someday, Garbrandt explained that after growing up wrestling and then transitioning into boxing and MMA, he may look into gym ownership or some kind of managerial work. However, he made it clear that he isn't really interested in coaching fighters day to day. Although he went through a rough patch inside the octagon after losing the bantamweight title to TJ Dillashaw, Garbrandt has won 2 of his last 3 fights, with his lone loss coming at the hands of Davison Figueiredo, who is hovering on the brink of title contention heading into his upcoming fight with Peter Yan. With a win on November 9th, Garbrandt will have plenty of extra bargaining power in contract negotiations with the UFC. Alright fight fans, UFC 307 is going down this weekend in Salt Lake City, and it's time to get in on the action. You already know we're partnered up with DraftKings Sportsbook, and this fight night, they've got an incredible offer that you won't want to miss. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 will instantly get $200 in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and sign up using promo code MMAZone. The crown is yours. You can stay in on the action with your $200 in bonus bets with the same game parlay, where you can put together multiple bets for an even bigger payout. If sports betting isn't available in your state yet, don't worry. You could still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use our promo code MMAZone and bet just $5 on any wager to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code MMAZone. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Jose Aldo calls out Sean O'Malley. This weekend, Jose Aldo will make the walk to the octagon for just the second time since walking away from the sport in August of 2022 after a loss to Merab Dvalishvili. Following a brief stint in boxing, Aldo returned to the octagon earlier this year at UFC 301, picking up a unanimous decision victory over Jonathan Martinez in Brazil. Now, ahead of his fight with Mario Bautista this weekend in Salt Lake City, Aldo has his sights set on a fight with Sean O'Malley. As he explained through a translator to ESPN's Brett Okamoto this week, "I think that is a fight I like. I think this is a fight, the two of us, myself and Sean, 2 people we have weight. There's a cachet to what we do. 2 great names in the division, and it would be a great fight." As Aldo also revealed, during his hiatus from the UFC, he was offered more money to compete in MMA elsewhere. However, his loyalty has always been with the UFC. "Listen, my dream has always been to be a champion in the UFC. I want to be a champion in the UFC. That's what I've always dreamed of, and that was my ultimate goal. Thinking about the contract now, I'm looking forward to this opportunity. If any other proposals came about, I knew I would be locked in with the UFC, and that's what I want to continue to do. Other organizations came at me with some proposals and contracts. They threw some money at me, sometimes twice, 3 times the money, but it doesn't matter. Listen, I'm locked in, and I think there's a purpose for me to be in the UFC." With a win on Saturday, Aldo, who's currently ranked 10th at bantamweight, could be in a position to call for a fight with a top 5 opponent. UFC fighter goes off and blames judges for losses. This weekend, Tisha Pennington, formerly known as Tisha Torres, will look to snap a 2-fight skid that's seen her drop back-to-back split decisions inside the octagon. After rattling off 3 straight victories over Brianna Fortino, Sam Hughes, and Angela Hill, Pennington dropped a split decision to Mackenzie Dern in April of 2022, before then ending up on the wrong side of another split decision in May of 2024, when she faced off with Tabitha Ricci. Ahead of her fight against Carla Esparza this weekend, Pennington took aim at the judges for how they scored her past 2 fights during a media scrum on Wednesday.
Yeah, the split decisions have hurt me. It's hurt more the loss than anything, than getting punched or kicked by these girls or whatnot. I truly believed I won those last 2 fights. Honestly, it's the judges who keep me, if I'm being honest. Like, I go back and I'm like, I don't know who the judges were, but do they go home and they rewatch that fight and they're like, man, I took away opportunity from this girl. I took away money from this girl. Like, that sucks. I wish I could have done something different. So I kind of wish we had universal, like, where they tell you the score afterwards. You know how Invicta does it? That'd be awesome, because then, like, as an athlete, I know, like, oh, okay.
Leading up to Saturday's fight, Pennington is sitting as a slight favorite with negative 184 odds on FanDuel, while Carla Esparza is sitting as a slight underdog with plus 148 odds. Following her fight on the early prelims, Tecia Torres will then shift her focus to her wife, Raquel Pennington's co-main event fight with Juliana Pena. The MMA community goes off on Nina Drama for her tweet responding to the MMA Guru. MMA Guru tweeted and said, "Honestly, so disrespectful of the UFC cameraman at the UFC 307 press conference to be like, nah, you guys gotta see this in the middle of her question. Honestly, pathetic behavior, not funny." Nina, being friends with the reporter, went off on MMA Guru, writing an essay to him by saying, "I've been keeping my mouth shut about this clout-chasing vermin since I started in the UFC, and he hasn't been able to keep my name out of his mouth, crying about me like a little bitch on the internet. But for Amy, I had to speak up. I may not be everybody's cup of tea. I might be cringe and annoying, and I don't shy away from using my assets for views. They're a great set, and I will use every tool at my disposal without actually desecrating myself for success in my career, but that doesn't make me an indecent human, which is what you like to allude to as of late. This is what makes you so indecent and despicable, so much so that I had to say something. This is the reason why you'll never make it out that stale basement doing internet interview calls for the rest of your life. Yourself for donations that don't even cover a premium Zoom account. There's a reason why you had to take on the role of the heel on the backside of the MMA media industry, and it's because you're a rude, vile, ignorant, dusty, pathetic troll that causes more problems than you're worth. Trust me, everyone at the UFC knows who you are because of all the rumors and lies you've spread for clicks and views. You owe Photo Amy 33 an apology, and while you're at it, apologize to yourself for turning out less than human, an excrement stain on society, and now the reason another person's gonna sleep feeling devalued and violated." Here's what the MMA community had to say to Nina. To be fair, Strickland says, and has said, way worse than that, and you're best friends with him, lol. This your best friend? Why mad now? But when Strickland says the most wild, unhinged stuff and you do nothing but laugh and vibe, you're intellectually dishonest. You won't go at Strickland because he gets your views. You're a slave to whoever brings in the views. The whole girl power thing is hilarious. You snaked Helen Yee. Nina just mad they talk about Guru at the UFC HQ more than her. Annoying industry plant, we do not care. Yes, it's cool when Sean Strickland does it because you make money off him. LMFAO, give me a break. And a pays your salary, and a PED cheat gets you clicks. You turn a blind eye towards domestic violence in order to profit. Women don't respect you. Don't gaslight us into thinking you're so much better than Piggy. You're much worse. Dricus du Plessis coach revealed his next fight and potential opponent denying Sean Strickland from a title fight. Here's what he had to say.
We've been up and down, and I had a conversation actually yesterday with Dricus. There's only one thing for certain at this stage, that we've got to be ready to fight in Sydney in Feb. My opinion is Sean's overselling it. I mean, he's just had one win after Dricus. That was against Costa. Whittaker had 2, and I think he's going to go for number 3 now. My honest opinion is that next for us in line will be Whittaker in Sydney in February. I think he's going to beat Kamzat, and I honestly think that they're going to give him the shot.
Top comments. John the Duck Jones. I really hope Stipe pulls out last minute and we all get to see Jones versus Aspinall. Who actually wants to see that fight anyway? Jones getting that physique for old man Stipe just to then retire from the UFC. It's so sad we will never see Jones versus Tom. Merab can fight when he wants. The non-champion doesn't get to make the choice on when the champion fights.